he went to Morocco, simply because he couldn't. In the vast and relentless Sahara Desert, where the sun scorches the sand and the silence is so deep it seems to have weight, a solitary man walked. He wore neither the rich uniform of a French cavalry officer nor the elegant clothes of Parisian aristocracy, the worlds to which he once belonged. He wore only a simple white tunic, and on his chest, sewn in red fabric, was the image of a heart topped by a cross. His face, weathered by sun and desert winds, radiated a peace the world cannot give. He had left behind wealth, military glory, and fleeting pleasures to become the universal brother, the friend of the poorest and most abandoned. This man, who found God in the silence of the dunes and gave his life like a grain of wheat in the arid earth, is Saint Charles de Foucauld. The story of Charles Eugène, Viscount de Foucauld de Pontbriand, begins far from the sands of the Sahara. He was born on September 15, 1858, in the city of Strasbourg, France. His family belonged to the ancient and proud French nobility, with ancestors who had fought in the Crusades alongside King St. Louis. The family motto was Jamais arrière, meaning never backward. From the cradle, Charles was destined for a life of privilege, wealth, and honor. Yet the shadow of sorrow soon darkened his childhood. When Charles was only 5 years old, his mother, Elizabeth, a woman of deep faith and piety, passed away. A few months later, his father also died, a victim of severe depression. Little Charles and his younger sister, Marie, were left orphans. They were taken in by their maternal grandfather, Colonel Baudet de Morlaix, a kind and affectionate man who surrounded the grandchildren with love and care. Charles would later write about him, "My grandfather, whose beautiful intelligence I admired, whose infinite tenderness surrounded my childhood and youth with an atmosphere of love." Despite his grandfather's love, the loss of his parents left a deep wound in Charles's soul. He was an intelligent boy, but introverted and sometimes difficult-tempered. During the Franco-Prussian War of 1870, the family had to flee Strasbourg and settle in Nancy. It was there, during his school years, that a silent storm began to form in the young Viscount's heart. At 15, influenced by readings of skeptical philosophers and the secular environment of his school, Charles began to doubt the faith his mother had taught him. Doubt soon turned into denial. He completely lost faith in God. He would later describe this dark period. "Philosophers all disagree. I spent 12 years neither denying nor believing in anything, separated from the truth, not even believing in God. No proof seemed evident to me." With the loss of faith came the loss of life's meaning. Charles plunged into a selfish and dissipated lifestyle. He confessed himself, "I was all selfishness, all impiety, all desire for evil. I was as if mad." Seeking to fill the emptiness of his soul, he gave himself over to worldly pleasures, fine food, parties, and laziness. Despite his lack of discipline, the military tradition of his family called to him. In 1876, he entered the prestigious Saint Cyr Military Academy. However, his rebellious attitude and extravagant lifestyle made him a problematic student. He graduated near the bottom of his class. After his grandfather's death, Charles inherited a vast fortune, which only fueled his excesses. He was sent to the cavalry school in Saumur and later assigned to the 4th Regiment of Chasseurs d'Afrique in Algeria. In Algeria, garrison life bored him deeply. He continued living scandalously, to the point of being temporarily dismissed from the army for indiscipline. But beneath the surface of that spoiled and arrogant young officer, something was changing. Contact with North Africa, with its vast and mysterious landscapes, began to awaken in him a desire for adventure and discovery. When he learned that his regiment would take part in a dangerous expedition to suppress a rebellion, Charles begged to be reinstated. He fought bravely and proved to be an excellent soldier, earning the respect of his commanders and comrades. Life in camp, desert marches, and military camaraderie rekindled a spark of nobility in him. But military life was still not enough to quench the thirst of his restless soul. In 1882, he made a radical decision. He resigned from the army to become an explorer. His goal was Morocco, a country then strictly closed to Christians and Europeans. Entering Morocco meant risking one's life. To carry out his expedition, Charles needed the perfect disguise. He decided to pose as a Jewish rabbi, adopting the name Rabbi José Aliman. Accompanied by a real rabbi, Mordecai Abi Saror, who served as his guide, Charles began a dangerous and exhausting journey that would last nearly a year, from 1883 to 1884. Traveling on foot or by mule, enduring scorching heat, hunger, thirst, and the constant fear of being discovered and killed, Charles mapped unknown regions, studied the geography, culture, and customs of the Moroccan peoples. He hid his measuring instruments in his clothes and made secret notes, often at night by starlight. The expedition was an extraordinary scientific triumph. Upon returning to France, Charles published the book Reconnaissance in Morocco, which earned him the gold medal of the Paris Geographical Society in international fame. He had proven his courage, intelligence, and willpower. But deep in his heart, the true journey was only beginning. During his travels through North Africa, something deeply touched Charles's soul. He observed the fervent faith of the Muslims, their constant devotion, and how religion permeated every aspect of their lives. He saw men prostrate on the desert sand to pray, submitting themselves entirely to the greatness of God. This vision shook him. He began to question himself. Islam produced in me a profound disturbance. The sight of this faith, of these souls living in the continual presence of God, made me glimpse something greater and truer than worldly occupations. Back in Paris, surrounded by comfort and society's admiration, Charles felt increasingly empty. Human glory was not enough. He began to attend churches, not as a believer but as a troubled seeker. In the silence of the dark naves, he repeated a desperate prayer. "My God, if you exist, make me know you." God's grace was working silently. The influence of his cousin, Marie de Bondy, a woman of deep faith and kindness, was crucial. She welcomed him with affection, without judgment, and gently guided him. Through her, Charles met Father Henri Youvelin, a wise and holy priest. At the end of October 1886, Charles went to the Church of Saint Augustine in Paris, intending to ask Father Youvelin to explain the Catholic religion to him. But the priest, moved by the Holy Spirit, saw the thirsty soul of that young man. Instead of giving him a theology lesson, Father Youvelin said, "Kneel, confess to God, and you will believe." Charles hesitated for a moment, but the power of grace compelled him. He knelt and poured out the sins of his entire past life. When he rose, he was a new man. The darkness of doubt had dissipated, replaced by the radiant light of faith. He had found the hidden treasure. Later, he would write the phrase that would define the rest of his life. "As soon as I discovered that God exists, I understood that I could do nothing else but live for Him. My religious vocation begins at the very moment my faith awakened." Charles de Foucault's conversion was total and absolute. God's love flooded his heart with overwhelming force. He felt a burning desire to imitate Jesus Christ, especially in his hidden and humble life in Nazareth. He said, "Love is inseparable from imitation. Whoever loves wants to imitate. It is the secret of my life. I fell in love with this Jesus of Nazareth crucified, and I spend my life trying to imitate him." Seeking the most humble and austere place he could find, Charles joined the Trappist order in 1890, taking the name Brother Marie Alberic. He was sent to a monastery in Syria, a poor and difficult region. There he embraced a life of silence, prayer, fasting, and hard manual labor. He, once a rich and spoiled viscount, now found joy in sweeping floors, washing dishes, and working the land. Yet even the rigorous Trappist life did not seem poor enough for him. He saw the peasants around the monastery living in even more miserable conditions, and felt he was not perfectly imitating Jesus' poverty. He wrote, "We do not have a poverty of convention, but the poverty of the poor. The poverty that, in the hidden life, does not live on gifts or alms or income, but only on manual labor." With permission from his superiors, Charles left the Trappists in 1897 and traveled to the Holy Land. In Nazareth, the town where Jesus lived most of his life, Charles found work as a servant and porter at the convent of the Poor Clares. He lived in a small wooden hut, wore old clothes, and spent hours in adoration before the Blessed Sacrament. He wanted to be the last, the most forgotten. "I do not want to spend my life in first class, while he who loves me spent his in last," he said. It was during these years of silence in Nazareth that Charles's spirituality matured. He understood that the Eucharist was the center of everything. "The goal of every human life should be the adoration of the Holy Host," he wrote. He also realized that charity was the essence of the gospel. He wanted to love everyone, without distinction, seeing in each person the face of Christ. Despite his desire to remain hidden, the Poor Clares and his spiritual director, Father Houvelin, recognized Charles's exceptional holiness and encouraged him to prepare for the priesthood. He resisted at first, feeling unworthy, but finally obeyed. On June 9, 1901, at the age of 43, Charles de Foucauld was ordained a priest in France. As a priest, he felt a new calling. He did not want to be pastor of an established parish, but wanted to go to the most distant sheep, those who had never heard of Jesus Christ. His heart turned again to North Africa, to the vast Sahara Desert. He departed for Algeria and settled in Beni Abbas, an oasis near the Moroccan border. There, he built a small hermitage of mud and stone, which he called the Fraternity. He took the name Brother Charles of Jesus. His goal was not to preach with words, but with life. He wanted to be the universal brother, welcoming all: Christians, Muslims, Jews, French soldiers, slaves, and nomads. In Beni Abbas, Charles spent hours in Eucharistic adoration, prayed for the peoples of the desert, and offered hospitality to all travelers. He was deeply shocked by the practice of slavery still existing in the region and used money he received from his family to buy the freedom of several slaves. He saw in them the little ones of the gospel. "There is, I believe, no word of the gospel that touched me more deeply and transformed my life than this. Whatever you do to one of these little ones, you do to me," he wrote. But Charles's apostolic zeal urged him to go even further, to the heart of the Sahara, where the Tuaregs lived, a nomadic and warrior people isolated from the rest of the world. In 1905, he traveled to Tamanrasset in the Hagar Mountains, an arid and inhospitable region. There, he built an even simpler hermitage. He was the only Christian for hundreds of kilometers. He did not try to convert the Tuaregs through theological speeches, but through friendship, respect, and humble service. He said, "My apostolate must be the apostolate of kindness. When people see me, they should say, 'Being such a good man, his religion must be good.'" Charles immersed himself in Tuareg culture. He learned their language, Tomahawk, and spent years compiling a dictionary and grammar, as well as translating local poems and proverbs. His linguistic work was monumental and showed his deep respect for that people. He wanted to understand the soul of the Tuaregs in order to love them better. Life in Tamanrasset was one of extreme poverty and sacrifice. Charles suffered from intense heat, sandstorms, food scarcity, and loneliness. There were times when he became seriously ill and was saved only by the kindness of the Tuaregs themselves, who shared with him the little goat's milk they had during a terrible drought. This experience deepened the bonds of brotherhood between them. Despite his desire to found a congregation, the Little Brothers of Jesus, no one joined him during his lifetime. He remained alone, a silent witness of Christ's love in the midst of the desert. He celebrated Mass alone, adored the Eucharist alone, but his heart embraced the whole world. He wrote the famous prayer of abandonment, which reflects the total surrender of his soul. "My Father, I abandon myself to you. Do with me what you will. Whatever you do with me, I thank you. I am ready for all. I accept all." Years passed, and World War I broke out in Europe, spreading its echoes of violence even to the Sahara. Rebel tribes, incited by agitators, began attacking French posts and loyal tribes. Charles was advised to seek refuge in a military fort, but he refused to abandon his Tuareg friends. He built a small stone fort in Tamanrasset, not to protect himself, but to shelter the local population in case of attack. On December 1, 1916, betrayal came to his door. A group of armed bandits, led by Senussi rebels, surrounded the hermitage. They knew the hermit's habits and used a man Charles knew to deceive him and make him open the door. As soon as the door opened, Charles was seized, dragged outside, and bound. The bandits began to loot the hermitage, searching for weapons and treasures that did not exist. Charles remained silent, praying, his eyes fixed on the sky. Suddenly, the sound of camels approaching frightened the looters. 2 French soldiers arrived unexpectedly. Amid the panic and confusion, the young bandit guarding Charles, a boy of only 15, panicked and fired his weapon. The bullet struck Charles de Foucauld in the head, killing him instantly. He fell on the desert sand, his blood mingling with the earth he so loved. He was 58 years old. The grain of wheat had fallen into the earth and died. The next morning, the Tuaregs, with heavy hearts full of sorrow, buried the body of their Christian friend. They knew they had lost a holy man, a true marabout of kindness. In the eyes of the world, Charles de Foucault's life seemed a failure. He died alone, murdered, without having converted crowds, without having founded the congregation he so longed for. But God's ways are not our ways. The martyr's blood watered the seed he had planted. Years after his death, the biography written by René Bazin made his story known worldwide. The example of his hidden life, his Eucharistic adoration, and his universal love inspired thousands. From his sacrifice were born the little brothers of Jesus, the little sisters of Jesus, and dozens of other congregations and lay fraternities that today live his charism on every continent, seeking to be a silent presence of Christ's love among the poorest. The Church recognized the holiness of his life and the miracle of his intercession. On May 15, 2022, in St. Peter's Square, Pope Francis canonized Charles de Foucauld, raising him to the glory of the altars. The Pope described him as a prophet of our time, who discovered that the poorest are not only objects of our compassion, but teachers of the gospel. The life of Saint Charles de Foucauld is a shining beacon for our days. In a world often marked by pride, the relentless pursuit of success, deafening noise, and division among peoples, Brother Charles teaches us the revolutionary power of littleness. He shows us that true greatness is not in dominating but in serving, not in accumulating but in emptying oneself. He invites us to rediscover the value of silence and adoration, reminding us that the most transformative action we can perform is to be in God's presence, letting His love shape our hearts. More than ever, we need His apostolate of kindness. We do not need aggressive speeches to defend the faith, but lives that radiate Christ's meekness. We need to look at every human being, regardless of belief, race, or social condition, and see a brother, a sister, a beloved child of God. May the example of Saint Charles de Foucauld inspire us to seek the last place, to love without measure, and to make our lives a living gospel, written not with ink, but with the daily and silent surrender of our love. Prayer of Abandonment. Saint Charles de Foucauld. My Father, I abandon myself to you. Do with me what you will. Whatever you do with me, I thank you. I am ready for all, I accept all. As long as your will is done in me and in all your creatures, I desire nothing more, my God. I place my soul in your hands. I give it to you, my God, with all the love of my heart, because I love you, and it is a need of love for me to give myself, to surrender myself into your hands without measure, with infinite trust, because you are my Father. Amen.